Hello, everyone. This is LaVon McMillan, founder and CEO of Advocate for Me, LLC in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And welcome to our podcast, Advocate for Me, where um, we specialize in offering resources, advocacy, and training to families who are caring for their special needs child. So today I have I got a father on the channel, y'all. Yeah, I got a father on
Right,
the
that's
channel.
right.
Y'all know exactly how I said I wanted to do a dad's corner. So our guest today is our second father on, and he's going to share his story, his experience, and what he's doing. He's doing some amazing things for the community. So I'm gonna allow him to share what he's doing. So great evening, Jamiel. Let's uh let's introduce yourself to the audience, who you are,
Okay,
what your mission is,
okay.
and what you want for your community.
All right, all right. With that introduction right there, I don't know if I can even come close to a good just a bio on who I am, but we're in here. The fathers are in here. My name is Jamiel Owens. I am the host and the creator of the Ausome Show, and also the co-host of the Ben and Jay Show with my brother and host and creator Ben Hartraff. And let's just speak a little bit about the Ausome Show first. The Ausome Show is a platform that I came up with to allow fathers with children who have been diagnosed with autism, give them a safe place to actually speak. If they need to cry, if they need to vent, if they're having thoughts of depression, really just give them that safe space where they are allowed just to be vulnerable at a point, listen to stories of other fathers, other caretakers, other mothers out there who have a specific point of, being in the autism community, and giving them pretty much some knowledge on how to tackle, autism, how to tackle their feelings, how to change their thinking. So I came up with that platform because for me, it was very difficult finding out that my son was on the spectrum. Quite frankly, and I speak about this often on my show, I wanted to hit that reset button. I wanted to just start my life all over because I couldn't believe that I would have a child with special needs. I didn't know what that would actually entail. And as many of you know, we often fear what we don't know. And this was a new, uncharted territory, which I did not know about, and I was fearful. So just like most men, most boys, I could say, that are put into men's situations, I was one of them. I ran. And we're going to get in a little bit more into that with my story, so I can tell you the do's and don'ts, but that's the Ausome Show. Now, I do have another platform called the Ben and Jay Show, which I started with my first guest on the Ausome Show when I was on radio, Ben Hartraff and his father, Glenn Hartraff. And me and Ben stayed friends throughout his guest appearance on the Ausome Show. And especially now since the pandemic, Ben gave me a call and he said, "Hey, Jay, I want to do something. I don't want to just sit around. I just want to do something for the autism community." And that was actually along the same lines I was thinking. So we got together. Ben works with a nonprofit called Access Services that are serving 11 counties in Eastern Pennsylvania. So we sat, talked to them. They liked the idea, and we are going on 31 shows since the beginning of the pandemic.
Uh,
And we have had people from um, uh, we have one of the Baldwin brothers on there with Atticus Baldwin, which is his son. We have had the writer directors of Loop and Float for Disney Pixar. We have had some amazing guests on the actual show. So it's been a hell of a ride. We're looking forward to 2021. I'm looking forward to 2021 on the Ausome Show, as I've had, Christian rap artists who have children on the spectrum on my show. I just had an interview with a writer director, actually a couple of writer directors for a docudrama that just won some awards. So it's been amazing, the people that you actually come in contact with.
Awesome. Yeah, I know for me, like I have two mentors. I don't even know if they know they're my mentors, Terry Matthews. Now I actually did meet her in person,
Oh wow.
because I did her event at Legoland for their
Okay.
Christmas holiday. But that would have been, let's see, because this year has flown by really fast. So that was 2019
Okay.
that I did her. So I follow her. And then Holly Robertson Pete.
Oh
I follow
wow.
her also. So they're like my mentors. They're my virtual mentors.
Okay.
Every time, I feel like I want to quit, with the, helping the community and getting the word out, I'll just pop on their Instagram and see what they're doing and how they're influencing others, in reference to their children. Um, so I know you started to go into the stories, so I'm gonna let
Yeah.
you. I'm gonna let you
Oh man.
share, because we briefly were talking before we started, and I was just sharing with Jamiel, like with my story with my son and how his father, he couldn't take the diagnosis. He has like his family members had a couple of personal things happen where they had young babies, infants in their family, and
Mhm.
they lost them. So um, with my son, he was born at 2 pounds 2 ounces premature at 28 weeks. He stayed in the NICU for like 101 days, and then he
Wow.
had like a lot of health problems throughout the time, and he's currently on a feeding tube. He's been since the pandemic. He's gained so much weight, and
Wow.
his
Good.
growth hormone injections have been working really well. So I don't know if it's
Okay.
because we're just like staying still and
Probably.
he's growing
Probably.
really, really fast. Like I looked at him the other day. I'm like, "You're growing like Incredible Hulk. Like slow down."
There
The
you
good
go.
thing is I ain't got to buy you no shoes because we stuck in the house.
Exactly.
But still,
Exactly. He's getting into his
yes,
superhero body.
yeah,
He's growing
yes.
into it.
I'm like, he stood next to me the other day, and I'm like, "Yo, like you really close to my height." Like, like by the time I go to high school, because he's in the 8th grade. Like by the time I go to high school, I'm be taller than you. I'm like, slow down, slow down.
Oh man,
But
man.
yeah, but just his relationship with his dad is good. It's just that when it comes to like his health and what to do, doctor's appointments, he kind of shy
Mhm.
away from it, or he'll leave it to me to do. And
Okay.
so if you want to speak on that, like being a father, like you was about to share the story, when you got the diagnosis, and then how, because I met you and your son when we were at that vending event. So
Yep.
yeah, so y'all, and I could tell that y'all have a good relationship. So if you want to
Yes.
just share with our listeners, like,
All right.
just the story of the beginning and up till now, because I
Okay.
see that you're definitely in his life and you're doing good things
Uh,
with him.
it has been a very, very tough battle. Being in his life, and I don't necessarily mean his mother. It has been some turmoil, obviously, rightfully so, but more so with my thoughts and my own feelings, and most importantly with my ego. So let's first off, let's just clear the air. I am in no way perfect, the God, the Mecca, when it comes down to being a present parent to a child that's on the spectrum. What I am is a man who has learned from his mistakes and still am learning from his mistakes. But what I'm trying to do is give that information out. So I do podcasts like this. I do the Ausome Show, do the Ben and Jay Show. I do whatever I possibly can, write articles. I do whatever I possibly can in order to make sure that other men do not go down the path that I went down. So I want to start there. So a lot of people they listen and they be like, oh, this guy thinks he's just Mr. Everything, and that's not true. So let's go towards the beginning. Um, you know, just thinking back, I was pretty much the last in my group of friends to have a child or consider having a child back then. Quite frankly, I was scared. I thought pretty much I was in a position where I was not ready financially to actually have a child. But, throughout the years, and what I learned is that you're never financially ready. You're never ready,
Yes,
period,
he's
to have a
never
child. So
ready.
it is what it is. It just comes about. It just comes about. Shayne was pretty much a miracle child. Shayne is my son's name, and what what I mean by that is because of some complications with his mother, he was not supposed to be conceived, and he was. So with that, learning that he was a boy, I was nervous, but at the same time, I was excited because I had a boy. I had a image of me, a piece of myself, which is going to live on past me, God willing. Um, that year was a rough year. I do remember that. I lost my great grandmother. And I was going through so much with that. So it was kind of a piece that was trying to restore me with my son. So Shayne comes into play. He's born. I'm there at the hospital. Men, you have to realize that your position is in the house. Your position is with your wife, your girlfriend, which hopefully you are dating with a purpose, and you will make your wife. But your purpose is there. Um, you have to stand ground when it comes to your castle, your domain, whatever you want to call your household. You have to stand your ground. There is no time for you to run away, to make any space for any type of negative vibes, the devil to come and wreak havoc upon your household and split you guys up. I'll go into that, but that's what happened with me. But just going into having Shayne, I was there in the delivery room, the most beautiful experience that I could ever witness, the birth of a child, my child, and I was there from day one, and uh, going through that period of time was bad for me because I was going through something separate from that. Once again, my great grandmother, who I was very, very close with, passed away. So I was suffering, which I considered alone, but I really wasn't alone. Once again, man, this is something that we have an issue with. We like to harbor these feelings, these oppositions in life to ourselves, when sometimes we have a willing spouse or a willing partner that is there to help us, that's there to listen, that wants to help us, that wants to give us that feedback. You have to be man enough to open up in order to tackle a lot of life's issues with your partner. Your partner is not there just to make you look good. Your partner is just that, is your partner. They are to know the the worst secrets about you. They are to know the best things about you. They are to help you. They are to correct you. They are to do everything. So it's more important for you as the male to realize this, and you'll understand more as the leader of the household, as the king of your domicile, whatever you want to place your status at in your household. I didn't have that, or I didn't think I didn't have that, which I did. So when Shayne came, I harbored those feelings, and I brung it into now having a child. So I was very unhappy in my life. A lot of things. I've had a rough life. That's another segment altogether. But
We can bring
I've
it
had
back
a rough
on.
life.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've had a very crazy and rough life, just like everybody else. You can see it in pictures. I never smile, even with having Shayne in my arms. I would never smile. I would never have that fullness of happiness like I have now. So what we started noticing, or what I started noticing, was actually two things. One was my actual marriage was falling apart while I had this beautiful child in my possession, in my eyes, in my heart, in my arms, everything. My marriage was falling apart because of these issues, which I felt like I had to deal by myself. I didn't see the blessings that was in front of me, bestowed in front of me, which was my wife at that time, his mother, and then Shayne himself. And what I started to notice was some odd behavior from my son. So what mean by odd behavior, and I'm speaking along the ages of 2.5 going on 3. Stemming was a very big thing that Shayne used to do, which is the repetitious motion of going back and forth on linear objects. Um, an example, a desk, anything that gave him some type of stimulation, he was stemming back and forth, back and forth. And I remember specifically, and I wrote about this one time, he was stemming so much that I actually forcefully pushed him away from that edge because it scared the hell out of me as a father to see my son look like a madman going back and forth. Like he looked like he was honestly possessed. And at that moment, I had to regroup and go inside because it was like a sun porch where he was playing at. I had to go inside and I started crying. I started really crying to myself because I didn't not only understand what was happening to my son, I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't know what was happening to my marriage, everything. It was just falling apart. Me and his mom talked. We decided to go get him tested. We went to go get him tested. One thing that I did promise his mom, which I completely failed on, and man, I hope I hope you don't spit this game towards your wife or your woman and you really don't mean it. Anything that you say out your heart to your partner, to your wife, should be valid, should be true. And if you are a man of credibility, or if you're a man, period, you should hold yourself to your word. And that was, I will never leave. We're going to get through this. Now, in one sense, that is true. I never left, but in another sense, it was false because I did eventually leave my household after getting the diagnosis from the doctor, which, to this day, I feel as though we are making a little bit strides as far as providers being able to have some form of compassion when telling a family that their child has been diagnosed with autism. Whereas though, 4 or 5, 6 years previously, it was just pretty much as blatant as possible. Hey, your child has autism, and it's a blank expression, and that's it. There's
And they
nothing
just walk
else.
out the room. Mm-hmm.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly, because they don't want to get the wrath. So I don't want to fully take away from physicians who are learning more about that, learning more about themselves, learning more about their patients, showing a little bit more compassion because it is out there. But this particular provider did give us that real blanket explanation, which was nothing, and just said, "Hey, your child does have autism." Immediately, fellas, I want you to understand this. Immediately, I began to point fingers at his mom because once again, we fear what we don't understand. So my immediate reaction, oh, well, there's no one on my side of the family that has these conditions, so it must be your side of the family. This is something you cannot do. From the jump start, I need you both men and women, to understand that it's neither fault. We don't want to go down the line of genetic testing. We don't want to go down the line of thinking who in each side of our family exhibits some traits that are on the spectrum. Let's get rid of that. What you need to see this as is it's a gift from God. It's a child that is here to rebuild you strength wise, to rebuild your thought, your heart, and your way of thinking, and that you are going to accept this challenge and you are both going to raise this child together. That's what you need to walk out that meeting with. Nothing more, well, more, but nothing less than that. So I started pointing a finger at her. Immediately, my coping mechanism was, I need to get out of here. I need to go out. I need to have a drink. I need to let loose. I need to get this stress off of me. Notice what I said. The key words that I said in each one of these phrases was I. There was never a we. There was never me and my family. There was never me and my wife. There was never my son. It was only me. Do not take this position when you think it's all about you, man. Because really, at that point, really, when you find out you have a kid, it's never about you from that point on. It's about your child. It's about your family. It's about your future. It should never be about you after you know that your wife or your girlfriend is pregnant. It's strictly about someone else from that point on. So, I did the normal thing, went out, went clubbing, my boys was out, messing around. We're going to keep it 100, messing around with, some females, I was a married man still messing around with females. And that was the destruction. That was the opportunity that I allowed the devil to come in my household and further disrupt everything that I have built with that particular woman. And also too, the easy flow of a relationship with my son. So me and his mom, split, ultimately, and then there was a divorce afterwards. There was a lot of turmoil as far as courts. Child support court is the utmost demeaning thing for a father who is still trying to be there in a child's life. If you guys can come up with some type of agreement, whether it be financial, whether it be custody wise, please do that outside of courts. That's next on my checklist, to try to work with the court system, because I can tell you from a person that been down there, thank God, let's knock on some wood. Me and my son's mom are in a very amazing space. My son's mom, my wife with her, like everybody's in an amazing space. I have not seen child support court in like over 2 years. But the time that I was down there, it was complete hell. It's basically, you are a number, you are scum, you don't deserve anything. And that is really not the case majority of the time. But that's a different topic too.
Yeah, that's a whole other show. I
So
can talk on that.
oh yeah, that's a whole other show too. That definitely is. So just the separation, once again, I was just really focusing on me. It really wasn't, oh, how is my son going to take this? Most importantly, look at the woman that I damaged. It's just another damaged woman that I added to society. So how did I feel as a quote unquote man by adding that damage to a volatile planet? You know what I mean? A volatile society. How do I feel about that? And on top of that, I just made myself, my son's mother and my son a statistic of single parent family homes, which I am a product of that environment. You see what it is that I didn't work on breaking the cycle. I added on to the cycle until now. I added on to the cycle. And in the midst of that, I was completely blatant to the blessing that was actually bestowed upon me, which was Shayne. Once again, we'll get into that. I'm getting to that part of the story. But I got real low. They say the grass isn't greener on the other side. That is 100% true. And I had to learn the hard way. I went through, people that, I thought loved me, people that I thought I loved, people using me using people. It was just so much hurt and pain that I was pouring out there into the world. And I wasn't getting anything positive back except the love from my son. When I did get him, it was just like there was no love like his love. At that point in time, I wasn't going to therapy. I wasn't going to any of his IEP meetings. I didn't know his teachers. It was a point in time I didn't even know where he went to school at. And you talk about an absent father. That was me, because once again, I was really still trying to focus on processing those words. Your son has autism. All those years, I was still trying to process that because I was only focusing on I. So what I began to do is I began to really feel like, a boy rather than a man. I felt, ashamed. I felt like, how am I going to say I'm his father? And I don't even know some of the most pertinent information that a father is supposed to know about their child. You don't want to be that father that sees their name on an IEP and you go to an IEP meeting and then the people just look at you like you're crazy because they never seen you before. They don't even know you. I've experienced that firsthand, where I had to feel the embarrassment of just sitting there with my arms crossed, basically at the table, and my son's mom really just speaking the whole meeting, simply because I was an absent father. I was still trying to focus on getting these feelings under control for I.
Mm-hmm.
So, I went to these meetings. I forced myself to go to these meetings. I forced myself to introduce myself. I forced myself to make sure that I was placed on IEP paperwork, that I was getting a copy. Um, you know, uh, just just making myself, my presence known. Um, Me and his mom, first off, I apologized to her and let her understand fully what was going on with me, so she could better understand the reason why I was not around. That is the most important part, fellas. When you come into recognition of what's going on inside of you, you can better love not only yourself, but everybody that has been in your life, that has some significance in your life. It is a life changing moment, and it's a necessary moment. Now, mine's was more of a religious standpoint. It may not be for everybody, but this is the point, the lowest of the low, when I didn't have anybody. Um, then at that point when I just got on my knees, and I just prayed to God, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. I just need your help. And as soon as I opened my eyes, I remember this. This was one of the weekends I had my son. And when I mean low by low, I mean like I didn't have anything to feed my own son inside my apartment. He was standing there looking at me, smiling at daddy, because in his eyes, daddy was just the most virile man, the most, superheroish person that he has ever seen at that point. And at that point, of just sobbing and crying because of me just trying to process these feelings for so long, that I just been selfish. At that point, I seen finally standing in front of me my angel, my purpose, my mission. I understand my gift, my blessing from God was really him, undoubtedly my son, the most caring, the most loving, the most open young man that you could possibly meet. Any of our awesome children are just like that. So what I begin to do is I begin to really transform my heart to be just like his. And when you really look at the attributes of all our awesome children, whatever they may be, nonverbal, verbal, whether they need more assistance than others, they depict the very essence of
Mm-hmm.
God, the very, very essence of God, his grace, his mercy, his compassion, his empathy, everything that this world is lacking for right now. I seen it right there at my son, in my son Shayne, and that was my angel. So what I begin to do is I begin to go to church with him. I begin once again trying to repair a co-parent relationship with his mom. Begin to repair myself to finally say, this is not about you. This is about your son. And you need to sit there and get off your butt, and you need to be active, and you need to be doing stuff. So what I did is I started learning. I started reading up more on autism. I started learning about, roles as far as being in a life of an individual on the spectrum. But that wasn't enough for me. It still seemed like there was something missing out of all of this, like something more that I was supposed to do. And in the midst of everything that was going on, my great grandma passed away, dealing with courts, there's a rocky situation with my son's mom, love life issues, my mom passing away. Through the midst of all this, God put it on my heart by saying, you have to give back to others. You have to love on thy neighbor. And how you do that is, I'm going to put you out there. Remember the book back in high school, The Scarlet
Oh
Letter?
yes.
Remember that book
Mm-hmm.
they made everybody read, and you'd be like, oh my God, she was such a, whatever colloquial you want to use for who she was.
Mm-hmm.
He stood out in public with that letter, and she had to wear that letter every day until she found out exactly who she was, to determine that, yo, you're not going to judge me by this
Mm-hmm.
anymore. That's exactly what I had to do. In other words, in example, I had to pick up my cross. I had to sit there and carry it, and I had to figure out what my purpose and what my mission was here. And that was the Ausome Show. And I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, yo, I want to start doing a show. And then it was all these things like, oh no, you can't do that. You never been on a show. You don't have any money. You don't have any connections. Nobody will listen to you. All these things that will come into your mind. You know, that's the devil
Mm-hmm. Trying to
just
take you
trying
off
to
your
dismay you
purpose.
from
Mm-hmm.
what you know what I mean, from what your purpose is. And every single time I just kept thinking about my son's smile. I just kept thinking about his happiness and his wholeness. Um, Even in a society that may not understand him, his happiness of just being alive, he just enjoys it. And I said, I'm going to do it. So it started off with Team Shayne and Friends. I'm looking at the plaque right now. It's from the Autism Speaks Foundation. What year is that? 2014. I did a team for him, which I created these shirts, which you can see on my page. It says, I'm not autistic, I'm awesome, which is hence the title of the show, The Ausome Show, AUSOME. The shirt sold like hotcakes. I had wristbands, they sold. I was able to donate to the Autism Speaks Foundation by myself. One father, with the help of so many friends, but one father and his dedication, over $2,500. I gave them a check for the Autism Speaks Society. So when I seen that, I said, yeah, I can do
Mm-hmm.
this. So what I began to do is I began to, reach out to certain platforms. The Ausome Show started off on AM, no, excuse me, on online, an online radio show. I reached out to an individual who was engineer owner of his own online radio station. I was on a show he was affiliated with, being interviewed, and he gave me a shot with that, and I had it, and I wrote the script from top to bottom. All questions was wrote by me. The playlist was written by me. It was all Christian hip hop music because I wanted to give parents a possible space where they could put on a radio and not fear for curse words or
Yeah.
profanity to be constantly playing on there. It was just a safe space altogether. I had some of the most emotional people, everyday working class people, everyday working class moms, first time mothers who really just only spoke out for the first time about their child being on the spectrum. I had them on the show. Fathers that spoke out for the first time. I even had, police officers that wanted to know, before everything that's happening right now, wanted to know how they could effectively serve their community by learning about individuals on the spectrum. This is my purpose. This is the mission of the Ausome Show. I found it. I found it through so much destruction. Why, man? Because I left my kingdom. And what I'm saying to you is that no matter what the diagnosis is, you and that woman, whether it be your wife, whether it be your girlfriend, whatever the case may be, you can get through it if you both are mature and if you both are ready to go into a battle of livelihood that is not even going to be for yourself. It is only going to be for that child. And the reward with that is a oneness that you will feel for yourself, for your wife, your girlfriend, and for that child as a family, as a unit, as a tribe. Is so much deeper than what you may think for yourself, as far as being the quote unquote head of the household. You got to earn that. You have to earn that title. That means you can't walk away. You can't hit the reset button. You can't sit to yourself, oh, I don't want this child. I want to restart. I want to walk away, just like I did. You can't say that, because at that moment, you are destined for failure.
On a lot. Like, I'm over here with chills. Like, you like the male version of me. Like, so, similar story with, my son's diagnosis, and just like, I'm actually working on an ebook now. And
Okay.
is like the 7 steps to your child's diagnosis or something like that. I can't think of it right now, but
Wow.
I'm working on it so that I can give it to parents. But when they do receive that diagnosis, like the first chapter of the book is just like breathe, like just breathe, like
Okay.
simply just breathe. Because
Yeah.
I've been in there because I
Yeah.
work in early intervention, so I've been at tables
Okay.
where, and I work from birth to 3. So normally, around the
Mm.
the 18-month to 2-year old is when the families are getting the diagnosis. When especially when it's a nonverbal
Mm-hmm.
communicate and it's communication. I normally come in
Mm-hmm.
to work with the families, and I'm helping them with the strategies to help their child communicate. Um, but I'm not the person that
Mm.
diagnosed. So I'll sit at this table and I'll advocate for the child because I'm their special instructor. But I've been
Okay.
in at tables where the parents have gotten a diagnosis, and like you were saying before, like the person that's giving them the diagnosis, they have like a blank look. They just don't have no emotion at all. They like, well, this is what it says. This is the testing. This is the assessment. This what came out. And the parent is sitting
Yep.
there receiving the diagnosis, and there's no response from anyone. And I've sat at that
Yeah.
table a couple times, and I'm like, well, who is here for her, or who is here for him, or who is here for them? Like,
Exactly.
nobody is here for them. Like, yes, you're the psychiatrist or the psychologist, and you just gave them that diagnosis, but you didn't get them like no resources to help them out afterwards. You just said, well, this is the
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis, and you can contact the
And that's
school,
it.
or something, or you can contact Elwin. But that's for the child. Like, what is there for the parent? And that's how
Mm-hmm.
pretty much Advocate for Me started, because I've had parents where they were calling me and they like, well, we don't know what to do. What should I say when I go to the IEP meeting? Or who do I talk to when I'm
Yeah.
transferring my child for kindergarten? Or like, and I'm like, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting there on the phone, I'm like, well, I can refer you to, this person. And especially I've worked in all different counties. I worked in Philadelphia County, Delaware County, Bucks County. So I didn't
Wow.
know, sometimes I didn't know about the school systems in the different counties, because I lived in Philadelphia County.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I'm in a different
Mm-hmm.
county, I didn't know about the school system. So I would have to go and do some research and then call them back and, help them out and, push them into the right way that they needed to go, for their child. But just like doing that, I was like, well, who is in training for them? And I've noticed that since I have been
Yeah.
on this journey, that's why I pretty much um like my platform is special needs in general, special needs and special healthcare needs, because I work with families who have
Mm-hmm.
children on the spectrum, and I work with families who have children with Down syndrome, and I work with families. So I'm like a culminating of special needs, and then my son has special healthcare needs. So I'm in the middle of all of it, but I just I really wanted to have something for them, someone for them to go to talk to. And that's why Advocate for
Mm-hmm.
Me was started. And it's funny, I'm gonna just share how I got the title. Um, and then
Okay.
because this is why I'm doing this, because that's why I was like your story is so similar to mine. Um, so I was asked to do a collaborative book with a group of women in Chicago, Illinois. And the first time she asked
Oh
me,
wow. Okay.
I turned her down. I was like, no, I'm okay. I don't have a story to tell. So then she reached out to me
Okay.
again, and she was like, no, everyone has a story. She was like, what do you do on a regular basis? I was like, I'm just a special instructor, and I'm taking care of my son. Like, and I work part time. Like, that's it. Like, I really don't have a story. So she was like, well, tell me more about that. So I told her about it, and then she approached me again, and I still turned it down. So by now she comes,
Wow.
she approached me again the third time, and I was like, well, it must be it must be a reason why she keep asking me this. So I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And same
Yeah.
similar story. My son was born the same day, same time, 12 years later, that my grandmother passed.
Wow.
So my grandmother passed when I was in the
Wow.
11th grade, June 16th. My son was born June
Wow.
16th, 2007. Mind you, he was born premature. He wasn't supposed to be due till September, but my water broke
Wow.
the night before, and we sat in the hospital all day long. Like my water broke at like 1 o'clock that morning. We sat there all day long until the
Wow.
exact, like it was like 11 between 11 and 11:15. My grandma had passed at like 11:30. They came in and was like, the
Wow.
baby's heart is dropping, and we need to get you in to
Oh,
the
man.
emergency C-section like ASAP. And
Okay.
like just the whole like everything that was going on. My mom is praying and she crying because she know what that day means to all of us. Um, and
Mhm.
and then this
Uh-huh.
just like little baby come at the same exact time. And my grandma was my heart. Like, how you were saying with your great grandma, my grandma was my
Uh,
heart. Like that
yeah.
lady raised me. I mean, my mom was there, but that lady raised me, and that was my baby. So, like
Yeah.
when he was born, at just like even now, like on his birthday, I'd be like, it's like so many emotions because it's like I'm missing her, but I'm rejoicing that he's here. Um, so I
Exactly.
like that's what I was like. I told her like when you was talking, I was getting chills. I was like, whoo! I was like, 'cause it was
Yeah.
so similar.
It's amazing how many people, once again, a more autonomous phrase that you hear out of the autism community is, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'm alone. And really, we are not alone. We actually share the most common stories that you'll probably hear in life. It's just that we don't have that openness to speak out because we don't want people to
Mm-hmm.
really judge us. And that goes a little bit deeper. I born and raised I was actually born in Houston, Texas, Harris County, flew up here, when I was a baby with my mom, and then we resided in North Philly. And I stayed in North Philly for a good number of years, 17th for Susquehanna. So, being from the hood, you
Mm-hmm.
see hood things. And what I see, within, the black and brown community is the lack of resources when it comes to our awesome children and adults. And also too, not to put it more on a provider and the government, but also too, the lack of testing and diagnosis when it comes to the parents is because they're in denial. They don't, and I get it. We're scared. We're scared to step up because we're already being, some of us unfortunately are being racially profiled. We're being put in positions where we didn't ask to because of our skin color, because of the way we look like, because of where we live at. We're being put in those places. So why would you want to subject yourself, not only yourself, but your child, to having another label be placed on them? I get it. But unfortunately, people with autism, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a long window. You have to go get your child tested. If you feel like, that mommy intuition, that woman's intuition, if you feel as though that your child is definitely not doing some things that a child his or her
Mm-hmm.
age should be doing, then you
Exactly.
need to go get checked. It is imperative for the black and brown community. So, not to cut you off, but I wanted to
No,
throw
that's
that in there
that's
because
true.
it is
That's true.
I'm seeing it. I'm
That's
seeing it.
true because when the field that I work in, like I said, I work with the birth to three, and that's the one thing. Like, the doctor can refer the parent to receive the services because with early intervention, it's not mandatory. So the family, they
Hmm.
can, say that they don't want it, but I've always, because my son received early intervention services. That's like, again, that's like how I got into the field. That's how I found out my purpose and my mission because um, when he came home from the hospital, like he was in the NICU for like 3 months. So he pretty much was in a bed for his first 3 months of life. So they were like, he wasn't holding his head
Mm.
up. He wasn't like turning his neck. And for me, like I was
Wow.
scared because he was so little And when he came home with like a Brady monitor, and so I had to like carry him and the monitor. And if it beat, that means something was going on with his heart. Like, like I say it now, he's 13 now, so I can laugh now. But then I was like, I remember this one time I had got him dressed. He had to go to the doctor because we spent like our life pretty much in CHOP the first 5 years. And I took him outside. We got to the corner of my mom's block. I crossed the street and the baby monitor started going off. And it wouldn't stop. Like normally they would be like tap his foot or tap his hand and like it should stop beeping. This thing would not stop. I started running across the street, cars coming as I was going back to the house. And I called his dad. His dad was there. I'm like, oh my God, it won't stop beeping. It won't stop beeping. He like, calm down. But then I had laid him down, and I'm like, well, wait. I was like, we in the house. Let me take his snowsuit off. Because mind you, it's still beeping. I'm like, I'm taking his snowsuit off. I'm taking the hat off. And it stopped beeping. And I was like, well, it just stopped. Like, oh my gosh, is he okay? And I'm looking at him, he breathing, he fine. And his dad was like, he probably was just overheated. Wow. Like you had all that stuff on him. And I was like, oh, and I just started busting out crying because I had like so many emotions. Like I didn't know what was going on. This is my first child. And like you were saying, like when they told me I was pregnant, I was 30, and I'm like, well, God, you really want me to bring a human in the world right now? Like,
yep. Listen, yes. It's not on your time; it's on his time. It's always so perfect.
Just that whole experience with him. I just wanted somebody else to have somebody to talk to because I actually was premature myself. He beat me by like 1 ounce. I was 2 pounds, 2 ounces. But my mom said I was real sick in the hospital. Wow. But when I came home, I wasn't sick anymore. Like I had seizures in the hospital. My mom said I stayed in the NICU for I was born in January, so I stayed in the NICU for 2 months. But she didn't really know anything about early intervention. But when I came home, I was fine. Like I literally was never in the hospital again until I had my son. Like I had never. So I know I had some serious prayer warriors for me. But he was sick, in the hospital. Like he was taking the same types of medications that my aunt was taking, and she was an elder. Like he was taking blood pressure medicine. Wow. He was taking water pills. They had following the cardiologist. Like it was like I was like my baby has the same exact doctors that my aunt had. Like it was so like that journey was crazy and being involved in it. But now working in early intervention, I can actually talk to parents who's going through it now. And that's why I love that position so much because I can actually share my story with them and give them some type of encouragement. Even though we're, still going through his special healthcare needs, it's still giving him, like even now he's writing his own children's book to share with other kids about having a feeding tube. So he understands. He's real quiet with it though. Like he's always been that way when he was a kid. Like he's always been because he had an NG tube, so that was like on his face. So people kind of knew like he was getting feeds and he had nurse care. But he was the type of kid like he still played football, he still did karate, he still just like he didn't stop and have a limit for his stuff because special health care. So he and I share that with all my family, whether the child has a diagnosis with anything. Like don't give them any limit. Like they want to do something, let them do it.
Don't.
If it takes them a little longer to to communicate, then we'll communicate in a different way. We'll use pictures. We'll use a PEX board where it has the voice where it can speak for them. Like we'll figure out a way for them to communicate with you, or or whomever the caregiver may be. Like don't put any limits on them at all. So if you can speak on that for your son, like what was like your journey when it came to like for school or family members, because even with family members, if they don't understand the diagnosis, you know, they have their own opinions. And they want to put
Yeah.
their two
Yes,
cents
they
in.
do.
So
Yes,
we
they
want to
do.
speak on that for our listeners of how, you know, how you uh, assisted with that with your family and, you know, just the school system. Because you were sharing that before, that you would sit at the table and you started advocating, because you were saying, like, add my name to the IEP. I want to sit at the table and learn what he's doing. So you were
Yeah.
actually advocating for yourself as a father, and you was advocating for your son, because you
Yeah.
wanted to know what he was
Yeah.
experiencing, what you could implement in his journey. So just if you could talk about that, just
Well, I mean, I think when it comes down to family are never going to understand your pain. They are family, whether they can be the closest relatives that you actually have, or second generation, whatever the case may be. They're never really going to fully be there to understand your feelings, your thoughts when it comes down to your awesome child. A lot of my family are old. So it is hard for them to kind of understand autism. They do understand it. There's okay, so there's pros and cons. The pros is they're old school lovers. So everything is just, hey, it is what it is. I'm gonna love my grandchild regardless. That's how it is. Then again, they're old school as well. Oh well, he just needs to be disciplined, right? Or he'll grow out of it. That mentality from the old school, that trickles down to our conversations, me being the father and speaking with the grandparents and letting them know what's going on with their grandchild. It can be very, very challenging. It has been challenging, 100%. But this is a situation where I think more so, once again, the principles I speak on that help me, now through life, navigate through life, and then also understanding my son is to not hold grudge, to forgive easily, not to speak or strike with the tongue so quickly, but to really just think about what you're saying, think about what the other person is saying, listen, and then really just take in consideration with an open heart, where they're coming from, and just adjust your thought process equally. So just speaking about that, I don't think there will be a easy transition for any family out there, because it's a complex situation. Autism is a spectrum that is as wide as sound. It's never ending. We are still learning more and more about this. We need to learn even more. So how can you put a cap or expect for someone to understand something when everything is growing day by day? That's just something, just a thought that I want to put out there, for people who may feel like my parents or my family don't understand what's going on with my child. Okay, I get that, but let's take yourself out of your situation, out of you, and let's look at it a third person and really see where they might be coming from. And this is where your patience, once again, love is kind, love is patient. This is where your patience comes into play, is because now it's not just about teaching yourself, teaching your child, teaching your loved one, your partner, about structure, but now it's teaching those family members who are unaware about structure, so that they won't be ignorant to the things and the words or the phrases that they hear when it comes down to you or your child. So that's one thing that I'm learning still today with other parts of the family, especially since they're older. Um, Going back to speaking about being at the table, really just listening to the conversations between my son's mother and those providers, those teachers, those therapists, and not being able to interact not one bit because I didn't know anything about my child, because I was a absent father, because I was trying to deal with my feelings by myself instead of asking for help. Um, it it was a very, very embarrassing situation. It was something that I knew if I didn't speak up and speak out, but not only that, but really
Mhm.
put your money where your mouth is, sort of forte. If I didn't do that, then I will never understand my son. I will never understand what he might be thinking or what other parents might be going through. I would never push myself to kind of think outside the box when it comes to my son and other individuals I meet that are on the spectrum or have kids like that. So it's really, 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 really an inner strength push for the fathers. Um, and I know there's a lot of absent fathers out there, who feel as though, okay, how can I come back into my child's life now? I've never been there. You can always restart your life. The funny thing is if you make a comparison to your life and then let's say Instagram, your real life and the Instagram life, you can always reinvent yourself on social media. Now that's social media, it's so powerful. So what is the difference between reinventing your life in social media and reinventing your life in reality? You know what the
Mhm.
difference is? It's you. It's what you're thinking. It's how you think. It's how you operate. If you operate in love and you sow those seeds in love, you will reap the benefits more abundantly than anything that you can invest in here on this planet. Trust me by that. By me sitting there and doing these podcasts once again and doing my show, I'm not only speaking up and getting recognition for it, which I'm not doing it for 100%, but I'm doing it to leave a paper trail for my son Shayne. So when he gets older and he's looking and he's really listening, he's like, wow, my dad really, really, really loved and cared for me. He really advocated for me. He left me all these tools so I can basically pick up the pieces and continue to advocate for myself and others that are just like me.
Awesome, awesome. And I thank you for picking that up and running with it and not being scared and not, and not
Thank you.
turning away. Oh no, I was about to say
I'm
I know it
scared.
be some
I'm
days where
scared.
you be
I'm
like, am I
scared.
really doing this? Like I don't want to do this no more. But I guarantee you're gonna agree with me that every time when you say that you don't want to do it, you'll get a call from a parent. You'll like you said, you'll think of your son's smile, like something to come back to you to be like, but I gotta keep moving and I gotta keep pushing and I gotta keep doing this for others.
Yeah,
Because this mission that we're on is not for us.
yeah, yeah. Oh no. It's definitely not for the weak, and it's definitely not for us. No, no, it's
Now
not.
I know we kind of touched on when you were saying the police officers were calling and asking how can they learn more about uh, interacting with someone that's on the spectrum, and we're in. Well, I know I'm in Philadelphia. I think you live right outside of Philadelphia, but we all just experienced something here in
Yeah.
Philly where we lost a young man um, to to the police, and he had mental health issues. And I did say, personally, I said I was
Hmm.
going to do a podcast on it. I have not yet because my emotions is like all over the place in reference to that. But if you could speak upon like what do you want to see law enforcement like what type of training or what type of like community effort would you like to see law enforcement have when um interacting with our children and our adults with special needs?
All right. So First off, I want to shout out to I'm up in Montgomery County now. Want to shout out to Montgomery County police districts up here. I actually have the pleasure with my partner Ben Hartraft to actually have police seminars. We are actually invited into these police seminars to really interact with them as far as being a parent of a child of a Black and brown community, you know, from that community having child. And then you have Ben Hartraff, which is a Caucasian male who is autistic himself. You have a combination between this team, and we speak to these officers about our thoughts, our opinions, our worries, so they can get an understanding of the other side, as we could say. So I just want to put that out there. I am looking to talk to any police department, especially of where I'm from, Philly. My understanding is that there are some organizations, some groups that are already doing it. Would love to collaborate with them if they hear this. We can talk on that. In any police department all over the country, all over the world, don't matter. I'm down, because at the end of the day, there's someone kid who is just like mine that is going to have an interaction with law enforcement, and there are certain steps that need to take place and need to happen to ensure the safety for both individuals. So I want to put that out there. The second thing is that I am a volunteer firefighter here in Hatfield, PA. That's where I live at, Montgomery Township, Montgomery County, excuse me. And I am a ex-corrections officer. So I have law enforcement background. I have public service background. Now, when you're looking at a situation like that, and it's funny too, because a lot of my friends was like, oh, so what do you think about the situation? You didn't really post anything about it. You didn't really talk about it. There is a reason. I am to speak out about it, which I am speaking out about it. I'm speaking out about it in a different format. There's nothing wrong with protest. There's nothing wrong with stating what you feel in your heart. You have that right. You have that. It's in the Constitution. My route, it's a little bit different. This is the reason why I'm doing these seminars for police officers, is because I'm speaking to them directly. I'm not going to post something on my page or post something out there and hope that a police officer or a police chief or someone in the community will listen to it. I'm going to go to the direct source. So that's what I implore everybody to do, is go to the direct source. Okay, Mill, how do I do that? All right, if you are an individual who has a child on the spectrum in a community, you must get rid of your ego. You must get rid of your ill feelings, and you got to go down to the police station, and you have to alert that desk sergeant, that captain, whoever's there, and say, hey, I live in this community. I am concerned about my son or daughter who are on the spectrum. I would like to tell you some more information about them, just in case if you get into some type of questioning, or you approach them, that information will come up on the screen. It will better serve you, and it will help you serve us. Now, people will be like, well, isn't that putting a label on my child? No, it's not. It's ensuring that your child comes home at the end of the night. It's very important. I can't sit there and just teach the officers and expect for them to do what they need to do on their side and not speak out to the parents. It's a community effort. It's a tribe. Just like Thomasina Lee, Miss Lee, I had her on my show. It's a tribe. It's a village. We're all in this together, so we got to work with them. Okay, that's another piece. That's another component to the answer to your question, is that you got to get out there and you got to speak with these police officers. It's not every single officer. I have friends, I have family who are police officers. I talk to them on a daily. I pray for them. I pray over them. I make sure that their thinking is not ill intended, that they are thinking from a place that is out here to protect the innocent, the righteous, and also those who are guilty, so that they may become reformed and be, righteous and good law abiding citizens. The situation that happened down in Philly, and this is not the only place that it happened, it's happened all over the country. Some places just doesn't get the news coverage like it did in Philadelphia. Um, it was a bag of mixed emotions, because once again, I've been in a prison setting, where violent things like that has happened or could have happened. And the academy teaches you basically just to be militant, because law enforcement is paramilitary, to be militant in your actions, but they lack a lot on compassion when they're sizing up the situation. What I need for law enforcement and what I'm trying to do in law enforcement is to help them see the missing component of compassion when it comes down to speaking out to cops and the actual associations, the actual districts, so forth and so on. That's what we need. We need cops to be just like they were 20 or 30 years ago. And that was people who work, who serve their community, public servants. They're placed on a pedestal right now of higher than the average citizen, sort of like the court system, a mobile court system, and it's not right. It's really not right. As far as the tactics that was used by the officer, these are things that are trained. They are trained to actually use to protect their lives, but also protect everyone that's around them in that particular area. So I really can't quote on, was that too much? Was that, a little bit force or anything? I really can't quote on that. But what I will say is that it is a bad situation because there was a lack of training on both sides. Once again, it takes a village to raise a child, and that mentality still has to go on. I mean, think about it. North Philly, that's old school mentality. I used to run around, used to be outside my house. You got the corner boys. Let's be real. You got the drug dealer boys on the corner, and they like, yo, Mill, what you doing out here? Don't make me go back and tell Miss Helen that you out here on the corner and you ain't supposed to be around here. And I will go scurry on. It's that mentality that the area, your neighborhood, your community takes care of everybody else. So that includes the police officers that patrols those areas. And I think right now there is a need, and this is the reason why, once again, I put myself out there. I don't get paid for this. I don't get paid for this at all. I put myself out there to make sure that I'm speaking, I'm representing the Black and brown community by speaking out, and also as a father, a parent to my son, speaking out and letting cops know what needs to happen, how their train of thought needs to be when dealing with individuals like my son that are on the spectrum. It's the training needs to be vamped up. It's not just about knowing your laws or knowing, different codes, crime codes, and things like that. What happened to the compassion? What happened to the heart? What happened to, just thinking from a parent standpoint, if that officer is a father or a mother. And don't get me wrong, there are some officers that do, thinking like that mentality, like, yo, I'm gonna take care of my block, and if I know you're a troubled teen, I'm gonna check up on you on a daily, make sure you're okay. What happened to that mentality? And I think that's something that needs to be in play.
I know for me, just because when the video started circulating, I said I wasn't going to watch it, but I watched it. And I know I've worked in group homes, where some of the patients had mental health issues, and it was various. It was across the spectrum. Like they had, it was different diagnoses in the group homes. But I remember having training of how to handle different situations when they occurred. And when this particular situation happened in Philly, like that's the only thing that kept like resonating with me is they have to be trained. Like it has to, because right now the statistics is what 1 in 54 children are diagnosed on the spectrum. And our children, our children will become adults one
Yeah,
day. Um, so just making sure that they are
exactly.
trained, and learning how to handle different situations if they are called, to help someone in the community because of um, something that might be going on. Like it really needs like, and it's not even just with the police departments or the fire department. That was one of my goals also, is to make sure that I'm training like early childhood professionals, making sure I'm training teachers, because right now, like we may do like a course online, or you might do a course where you sit in for training, but it's different when you're sitting in the training and you're sitting in that classroom with the child, because like you were saying before, like you need that
Yeah,
compassion, you need
yeah.
to understand exactly what they're going through, you need to know what their triggers are, you need to know all that, and learn how to handle it with compassion instead of just reacting on your own emotions. But I mean, I understood, with the police
Hmm.
officers, like you said, like they're trained to do certain things in certain situations. So, um, I think, on my end, like it's like, what can I do to assist my community to make sure that they are being, like that word is getting out, to the commissioner and to the mayor, that we do need some
Yeah,
type of training. Because I don't know, when I was younger, for some reason, I remember um, we had a couple of situations on our block where we did call the police, but they had like a totally different, I don't know why I want to say task force, but they had a totally different department come and handle those situations. Um, yeah, so I don't know what
yeah,
happened to it,
yeah.
and if it's still there, and they're just not training the rookies coming in. Like I'm not sure exactly, but I think everyone from the ones that's been here that has seniority all the way down to the rookies, like they definitely need to have some type of
I think definitely if we are able to get into
training.
the academies with the rookies, it starts there. It's easy to start to get
Definitely.
someone out of bad habits when they're first getting their taste out on the street, rather than let them go into the workforce, the job force, be out there on the streets and to form these bad habits and then tell them, no, you're wrong, we got to change them. I think it definitely does need to start there, first, and then wrap around to the older officers who've been there, for a number of years, got some years on their under their belt, and really just start
Mm-hmm.
to work on them. The new cadets will be the easier ones, because they're fresh on the streets. And then, going to the older officers will be a little bit of a challenge, but it is doable. So, once again, I'm attacking it, the best way possible. Well, Mill, why didn't you start in Philadelphia? Well, because I didn't get the promising feedback that I thought I would, from trying to help out, officers down there. Not saying that they're against it. It's just that I haven't been in contact with somebody to make it happen. So what do? I use what I have, what tools I have in the toolbox right now. So I'm starting in this, predominantly Caucasian community, and I'm going to teach this community how I feel as a representative of the Black and Brown community. I'm going to still love on them, but I'm going to tell them what they do not know. And once again, this is it comes down to the fundamentals of what's going on today, is that we need to listen. All this stuff that's going on, racism and equality, is because people are only talking, but not enough people are listening also. Well, you know what? I got the ears of some people that are willing to listen. So I'm going to use that to my advantage right now. And then I'm going to keep on pressing and I'm going to keep on trickling until I get back into Philadelphia and any other states or surrounding counties. And I'm going to do it that way. You know, that's the way you gotta just stand up. That's the way you gotta stand up and speak out and get out there. It's not a time to sit there and be like, oh well, this door closed, can't go down this road. Oh well, it was worth a
Mm.
shot. No, because our children don't give up. You know, our awesome children do not give up. They live life each and every day, even though they are seen as being different or not quote unquote normal. They still get up with an open heart, with a grateful smile and a grateful, position on life.
That was a
We
good.
have to do the same thing.
So, I guess the final question would be, you can share. So normally at the end, I allow the guests to, share whatever they feel on their heart, and then next, share how everyone
Hmm.
can get in contact with you, whether it be social media, email, or um, however you want the listeners to reach out to you. Because I've had some guests share their phone number. I have some guests, just share their social media or their email. So however you feel comfortable. But before you do that, like,
Listen,
you could just speak from the heart. Like, what's the last thing that you would want our listeners to hear?
well, I wanna really quote. Um, I want to say a quote, and then I'll go into the reason why I'm speaking about this quote, and then go into how you can contact me. So this is from, of course, everybody knows the great late Dr. Martin Luther King. And this is basically his quote saying, nonviolence is the answer to the crucial political and moral questions of our time. The need for man to overcome oppression and violence without resorting to oppression and violence. Man must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such method is love. And that's from the late great Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, if you really unpack what he just basically said, everything that he said is God. 100% is God. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Why are we fighting each other? Why are we speaking about race? There's you know, when I look into the Bible, there's no mention of race. There's always a recollection of where you've been, uh your ethnic adventures. Like what nation have you been? Where have you traveled? Your experiences. That's where you're based off of, not some simple boxes on an application that says black, white, other, Asian, whatever the case may be. We're not specific to that. Race is basically a way for the government to track movement among the country and the world when it comes down to individuals. That's all that is. So, race is a man made objective. I think these man made objectives that are placed into our minds is allowing us to forget the very simple thing which costs nothing in this world, and that is love. This is the most free, abundantly given present that you can give to anyone, and it doesn't cost anything. And rightfully so, this is the same gift that our awesome children, these awesome individuals, these superheroes that are on the autism spectrum, give day in and day out unknowingly. Isn't that a gift from God to be able to have an angel not only in your presence and call you mommy or daddy, but the possibility to engage with an angel, a person who walked the earth like Jesus millions of years ago, to be able to engage with the person and to learn how it is to be sympathetic, how it is to be compassionate, how it is to show empathy, just like you was a baby. It's the most amazing thing, but they're being overlooked. They're being shunned to the side. They're being, questioned about how they will act in society or how would they provide for themselves. These are questions that I have every single day as a father. What will happen to my son Shayne when I leave this planet? And sometimes I have to cry, because it's not because I don't believe in him, it's because I don't believe in society anymore. Where's the love? Where is God? Men, you can change this. And there's no disrespect to the mothers, to the women out there, but I need the men to finally be the head of household, those leaders that they sit there and they proudly walk around these streets and they say, but they really don't do what they need to do. I need you to be the head of household. I need you to find that spiritual balance, that spiritual awakening, so that you can decipher what's real and what's fake to you out in this world, and be that head of household. So that's my
Yo, that was
inspirational
awesome. Yo, I was
segment
sitting
for
here
for
like I'm gonna have to get
for
him to
the
come on
time
again.
being.
So that's
Oh man,
um,
listen. It would be an honor. It would definitely be an honor to do that. As far as the contact information, there's not a question that's too ignorant, that's too quote unquote dumb for you to ask. You can reach out to me through email, which is the Ausome Show. That's TheAusomeshow, all one word, at gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook, The Ausome Show. You can message me, DM me, and also too, check out the Ben and Jay Show, where we have these guests, where you will actually be able to see Ben Hartraff, who is a 22-year-old autistic male. You can pretty much see what our children are going to be like in the future. Follow us, support us, definitely support me. Thank you for supporting me. And the last thing I want to leave you with is that I love you. I can wholeheartedly say I love you, and I can really say that because I bowed down to my knees. I put all my problems, all my depression, all my anger, all my sorrows at the foot of God. And what he did, he took them away from me, and he gave me an amazing boy who is on the spectrum, who loves just like he does. His name is Shayne, and he allowed for me to love him. So therefore, I am able to tell anybody straight to their face that I love them, and I love them wholeheartedly without even knowing them. And I'm just telling everybody out there, I love you guys. I hope and wish you nothing but blessings. But I also wish that in this time right now, this pandemic, that you really understand there are some changes that need to happen in your life. God is letting us know that. This is the reason why these things like basketball games and football games and concerts are being taken away from us. It's because we glorify that too much. We don't glorify him. We don't serve him. And how do we serve him? Oh, it's a whole bunch of, that's a whole different segment. But one of the easiest thing is love thy neighbor. It's the simplest thing that you can do right now. And if you do that, you
that's
are
one of
on
the
a
things my
great
grandma will
start.
always say is treat others the way you want to be treated. And everybody wants to be treated with love. Like nobody wants to be treated with hatred or anything else. That was so powerful. Like I was sitting here like, oh my gosh, you're so awesome, man. Like, but it had to come through a lot of
Thank
pain,
you.
a lot of pressure.
Thank you.
What's that saying with the diamonds? Like you gotta go through a lot in order to come out shining. So you definitely are shining for the autism community with the show, being a positive father and making sure that you're speaking to other fathers. So I definitely, again, want to thank you for coming on the show. Um, and we're going to schedule another date to have you come on. Maybe I'll do like a similar version of the red table,
There you go.
like Jada picked. I'll have a whole bunch of fathers on here. I think I could have at least 4 or 5 people on here at a time. So maybe we'll have like a whole panel discussion
Definitely.
and have you guys on. So definitely, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. Anything I can do, just reach out and let me know how I can help out. And then um, we have a few more interviews for the month of November. We have a speech therapist coming on.
Okay.
On our next segment, we have we have Thomasina coming on because I know she was on yours just recently.
Yeah.
And I actually met her. One of my goals was to do an autism moms night out
Okay.
in the month of April. So I did my first one in 2008, no, 2019. And I met Thomasina there, her and her 2 daughters. And, we just hit it off after that. Her, Shantae, Douglas. I had already knew Jamila. Jamila was, she was part of the committee that I used to plan it. But I met both of them, and ever since then, like we've been rocking and rolling, and I've been making sure I keep in touch with them. So Thomasina will be on after the speech therapist, and then we'll see who we can get on for December. But we thank you for listening to the segment today with
Yes,
Jamiel and the
yes.
Ausome show. We will be, like I said, we'll have him come back.
Yep. I'm back in the building. We back in here. We in here.
Yes. But in the meantime, in between time, please go check his show out, the Ausome Show and the Ben and Jay Show. I've been following you for a minute on Instagram. So and then it was a pleasure to meet you in person, you and your family in person.
Thank you.
So that was like I said, I got people that I watch, and when I meet them in person, I'm like, wow, because you guys are doing such an amazing job in the community. So
Thank you.
keep doing what you're doing. Be safe, be blessed,
You too. You
and
too.
until next time, as Jamiel said, God is love. So go love your neighbor and encourage them, inspire them, and educate them.
Always.
Have a blessed one, everyone.